On a crisp autumn evening, as the leaves blanketed Central Park in shades of gold and crimson, Sarah decided to take a stroll after work. She had always been fascinated by history and had recently learned about Seneca Village, the forgotten community buried beneath the park's paths. Her curiosity grew when she stumbled upon an old map in the library showing the layout of the village streets, homes, churches and schools. Intrigued, Sarah plotted the map's locations onto her phone and set out to walk the paths where Seneca Village once stood. With each step, she imagined the laughter of children running through the streets, the melodies from Sunday services, and the daily lives of the people who once called it home. As dusk settled and the air turned cooler, Sarah noticed something peculiar. The usual hum of the city seemed distant, muffled, as though she had walked into another time. She approached a patch of land near what the map identified as All Angels Church. The air felt charged, thick with an unseen energy. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw a faint glow, a warm golden light flickering in the trees. At first she thought it was a reflection from the city lights, but as she stepped closer, she realized it was something else entirely. Figures began to emerge, faint and translucent, their faces serene yet distant. They were dressed in 19th century clothing, walking purposefully as if they still had lives to live. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she realized she was seeing the long-lost residents of Seneca Village. A child ran past her, laughing, chasing a ghostly ball. An elderly woman in a bonnet knelt near an invisible garden, her hands moving as if tending to plants. But then the mood shifted. The glowing figures began to look over their shoulders, their peaceful expressions replaced by fear. A low, mournful hum filled the air, and Sarah felt an icy hand on her shoulder. She turned to see a man, his eyes hollow, his face etched with anguish. "Ma'am! They took it all. They uprooted us, tore our homes apart, left nothing but shadows. Do you hear the silence? Do you feel the emptiness?" Sarah stepped back, her heart pounding. The once peaceful scene had transformed into a ghostly reenactment of the village's destruction. Families clung to one another as their homes crumbled. Children cried as men with hammers and axes loomed over them. The air was filled with wails and protests, but the figures moved as if unseen by those carrying out the destruction. And then Sarah saw her, a young woman standing alone near the ruins of a schoolhouse. She wore a simple dress and clutched a book to her chest, her eyes brimming with tears that glistened like dew. Unlike the others, she didn't run or scream. She stood frozen, watching as the life she had known was torn apart. Her presence was luminous, her sorrow almost tangible. Sarah couldn't look away. The woman's gaze met Sarah's, and in that moment, a flood of emotion hit her. The joy of a close-knit community, the pride in education and progress, the terror of seeing it all destroyed. A sudden vivid image flashed in Sarah's mind, the woman trying to shield a group of children from the chaos, only to be swept away by the advancing destruction. The woman's voice echoed in Sarah's ears, though her lips never moved. "Don't let them forget. Our stories must live." As Sarah took a step toward the woman, she felt the ground beneath her tremble. Whispers rose around her, layering over one another until they became an overwhelming chorus of voices. The trees seemed to sway in rhythm with the sound, their branches twisting like fingers pointing toward the park's heart. Sarah stumbled, catching herself on a low stone wall that hadn't been there moments before. She recognized it from the map. It was the foundation of one of the original homes. The voices grew louder, almost deafening, until they stopped abruptly. The woman was gone. In her place, a single page fluttered to the ground. Sarah picked it up and saw it was a fragment of a journal, the ink faint but legible. "They say this land will be taken, but they cannot take our spirit. We will endure. One day someone will listen. One day someone will see us." Shaken but determined, Sarah vowed to share what she had seen. She began researching Seneca Village more deeply, speaking at community centers, organizing walks through the park to honor its memory. And though she never saw the ghosts again, she often felt their presence, a warm golden light flickering just out of view, watching as their story finally came to life. Sarah is keeping her promise to speak of Seneca Village as often as she can.